Good morning, video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you for joining us. My name is Tommy. My name is Tommy Dassolo.
Tommy Dassolo, the comedy Picasso.
And with me, as always,
it's Ben Vanel here, Tommy. I've got a message for you from some other place, and I need to introduce
pause,
you.
language.
Watashi wa Tommy. Minamo des. Adam. Hello, yes.
Adam's son.
I don't remember I think I did Japanese in prep. Year one, very early on. I did like 1 year of Japanese as a young boy.
Yeah, I didn't. So to me, you're Adam Senpai.
Thank you. To everyone, I insist they call me that. Damn, dude. We're talking the Big Z.
Yeah.
Let's not waste any fucking time, in my opinion.
Let's address maybe the elephant in the room. I'm wearing a new jumper. Let me know if you can see it properly.
Well, we can't hear you properly because you're using the mic for fashion purposes.
It's got a whale on it.
Yeah, a whale found in the sea. And of course, you've been playing Zelda the Wind Waker this week.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is why you've worn that jumper.
We've all been playing it, right?
I'm wearing this blue shirt
Yes.
because you can get the Zora's tunic in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which I've been playing this week.
Yes.
And Tommy, you've not been playing Zelda?
I'm on my way to a kid's birthday party after this. It's my side gig.
Yeah, it's weird how much a Peter Pan costume translates to Zelda purposes.
Yeah, it is weird. And it's also, I mean, I've spent most of my week on the couch playing a video game, which is very Peter Pan of me.
Do you know what's funny too? Like you were like, I'm going to wear a costume, it'll be silly. But this is one of the few Zelda games where he just kind of wears regular clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can wear whatever you want in
That's
this
true.
particular one. So you could have
A lot of them are very like, just kind of like royal armor.
Or just
and
a hoodie.
Like
one of them's just a
garments.
hoodie.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, there's no...
A bandana.
Yeah.
One of them's a bandana. That's pretty sick.
You have to have bought like an $80 out-of-print amiibo off eBay in order to get the like classic Link green garb.
They
reissued
reissued a bunch of those amiibo.
Right.
So you can get those older ones now too.
What's the one that what is it, like the Wind Waker one, or like is it?
There's a couple. I think the Ocarina of Time. It's crazy that amiibo are still in this game too. We're jumping ahead. We're talking about Tears of the Kingdom, but like
we're jumping to the only topic that we're going to discuss today.
probably it's just about the only thing I've been trying to do with my time. For this last week or so. Because it's a real good game. The fact that the Amiibo logo is right there every time you go to switch your powers. Every time I'm like, what are you doing there?
It's weird because they do get you some cool stuff in this game. But you're right, it is very immersion breaking to go into a menu that's like, do you want to use your crazy hand power? Do you want to fuse a weapon? Or do you want to touch a toy onto your controller to make a chest appear out of the sky for some reason? I've ordered the Link's Awakening amiibo, the one that's like him as the Switch remake. It's a little amiibo of him in the style of like the little toy.
The chibi version. I learned that back in year one.
Yes. Because it gets you...
The teacher kept calling us chibi people.
It gets...
Bad teacher.
Not great. I mainly learned Indonesian. Anyway.
It gets you a little kind of helmet thing in the style of the Link in that game.
Yeah.
Which kind of looks all weird like, that movie Frank, where the guy kind of has the big, he's in the band.
Yes.
And he has the big kind of like fucked up looking mask.
Yeah.
I like the idea of walking around looking like that.
It's
freaking
cool.
people out.
If you touch the Dead Mouse amiibo to your controller, you get a big helmet.
Fuck.
The
Daft Punk one.
The Daft Punk amiibo. There's two of those.
Yeah.
Different prints.
Gives you tracks in the game.
Yeah. Who else wears a helmet?
He whips out the ocarina and busts out Get Lucky.
Oh.
The Kaiser Wilhelm amiibo, I think they shouldn't have made.
Yep.
But when Battlefield 1 came out,
Sure, you got to have a tie-in.
Yeah.
See, this is the annoying thing is like it's only Zelda amiibo that get you kind of like special things in the game. You can scan any amiibo and it'll drop like some apples and stuff.
Well, so
but in terms of cosmetic stuff, it is annoying that they draw, it's already like, we're fine with the immersion breaking of you scanning a toy to get weird little costumes in this game, but we draw the line at anything that's outside of the, I want to dress up like Wario in this game is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
yeah,
If
I
you're
want to
going
dress
that
up
far-
like Wario on SNL. I reckon that'd be funny as hell.
Let's start at the start though. We dive too far, honestly. We're into the amiibo
Hey,
when we
diving into the abyss and seeing what happens. That's what the game's all about, baby.
Yep.
For a bit, a lot of it is running around on the ground.
Oh, you're doing all sorts in this one.
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom came out. We've been talking about it for fucking ages. Me and Tommy especially have been really looking forward to this
Yep.
one.
Yep.
In a way that's made me feel embarrassed. I was while we were speaking of the Amiibo really quickly though.
Yes.
I was in the same room as my brother playing this game during the week. My imaginary brother who runs a fight club.
Yes.
And he had a little wolf Link Amiibo.
Yep.
Just gave me a
Oh.
bunch of meat. Anyway.
Okay, I think I've got that one. It was from Breath of the Wild, right?
I
Twilight
think
Princess.
from
Oh,
Twilight Princess.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think maybe I just bought it when I bought Breath of the Wild.
I think it would have still been hanging around at that time.
Yeah. Because that's when I bought a Switch.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, all right, I'm going in.
Matt Damon style. Was he in We Bought a Zoo?
Yes.
Thank you.
But Ben's just one person
Yeah.
who bought a Switch.
The Royal We.
I do. I use the Royal Wii all the time.
He's always
weirdly-
pissing on King Charles.
Matt Damon I now associate with crypto.com more than
yeah.
anything
Yeah, sure.
else. Like I've not done that yet. Thank Christ.
It's the grown-up ish version of Amiibo
Yeah,
is
yeah,
getting
yeah.
yourself a bunch of stupid little fucking things with round shapes that
A bunch of rupees.
completely worthless.
Yep.
Kinda. I mean, some of them, if you have them in the box, they have, they have gone up quite a lot in value. So
I bet you
true.
could get a little Link coin or something anyway. Anyway, don't. But
Yes.
the game is Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes.
It's been 6 years since Breath of the Wild.
It was like Feb.
March
March
2017.
Yeah. Fuck.
It was the thing that I associate with, like, when we started doing this podcast, we were like, ooh, the new Zelda, ooh, the NX, which
Yes.
turned into the Switch.
Yep.
And now, like, full circle ages later, this is the closing of them working on that, it feels like. This
Yes.
game is very much a sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what I am finding to be a positive way.
Yeah.
I am really liking that about it because just getting more of that game with all the twists and shit that we'll talk about.
Sure. But it was still known pretty much formally as Breath of the Wild 2
For ages.
until like 4 months ago. Like they really only
Yeah.
dropped the title on us like very recently.
When the Queen died.
Yeah,
When the
that's
Royal
right.
Wii became the Royal C. Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad the Queen's not around to have heard that one.
Yeah, but it's been a long time coming. It kind of feels like it should be closing out the life cycle of the console as well.
Yeah.
It feels like it
almost
kind of is a little bit. Yeah. Like
There's still Pikmin to come, but then they've not really said anything about whatever's going on after that.
and they haven't said or shown anything of a new Mario or Mario Kart. They haven't shown anything
Right.
of Metroid 4. So it really does feel like, this is sort of the bookend of this generation of Nintendo. I was trying to remember about like when did people... It felt like very, very quickly it was pretty known even before they announced it that there would be a Breath of the Wild 2. Remember there were like rumblings so quickly of like, well, whatever they do next is going to have like, they can't just go back to doing a linear story
Right.
and having it be like Skyward Sword style. So surely they built... It felt like the noise of like, are they going to do a direct sequel to this? Also because it was a launch game as well for the Switch, like it felt like that noise started like very quickly, and then they had that very vague, just like cinematic trailer at an E3 where they just went, "We are working on a sequel to Breath of the Wild 2."
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it felt like that happened pretty quickly. So it does feel like it feels like it has been. We have been waiting for this like more or less for 6 years.
Sorry, you just talked for long enough that I forgot and then remembered that you were wearing the Peter Pan
Yeah, me too.
costume.
I mean, I can't see me, so I genuinely am forgetting how I'm dressed.
I was thinking.
I'm betting that you can't see you.
It'll be funny if we put up clips and we don't address it within those clips, because it'll just be...
I think we're going to have to. I mean...
Maybe we should put up clips and we don't address her like a Peter Pan.
don't be silly.
In the walk over here after I had the costume, I was like, okay, well, the best bit for talking about the game dressed like this is to not be that into the game. So can I commit for like an hour and a half to being like, bit dull, honestly.
Now, Tommy, you're famously not a fan of Zelda.
Yeah. The main character in the Zelda games, yes. The person you play as,
Yeah.
Anyway, I've not called it a Link costume once either.
No, it's Peter Pan.
It's a Peter Pan costume.
The first time I remember really hurting myself was because I was pretending to be Peter Pan.
Okay.
I hurt myself.
Me too.
Well, wait
this
till
is
you see
going
the
on
comments.
the internet,
Yeah, we should say we're in our new little thing. You can go watch like the podcast on YouTube now. We've got some cameras and stuff set up. This little studio that we're in is still being figured out and stuff. So if anything looks weird to you, fucking leave me alone.
Yeah.
We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
You come do it.
I was going to say, actually, like it feels like a bookend on the Switch. The podcast kind of was built around building up to the Switch's launch. This is sort of closing it off. And I mean, it's a shame that we just built this studio because we're ending the podcast.
We have to.
We have to. It's just, it's a natural narrative arc.
Well, so, I mean... Again, getting ahead of ourselves by talking about the future of Zelda already and speculating about what the next fucking one is. But
Also, we're not actually, by the way. There will be people who are like, but
this podcast is hosted on the Switch eShop. So once that shuts down, we're done.
Yeah.
We'll keep recording them, but they'll have no way of getting out.
You can pirate them,
exactly,
probably.
Pass around SD cards and stuff. That's,
but going forward... like Anuma's been out. You were saying this before, Tommy. And also, it's such a big topic that this is like not structured essay style as I would prefer. But
we've structured the studio, but the show remains completely loose.
There's never going to be a change to that just due to physical and mental capability. But the future of it will be in this vein of how these games play.
Right.
He's been doing a bit more like that. You know, obviously they've been so hush-hush about it basically right up until release that, this week he's been doing a bit more kind of behind-the-scenes lighty kind of stuff where, he's talked about how this is now the template. He said things like that, the Ascend ability started out as like a little cheat code that they would use in their own internal build of the game.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
Where they were just, mucking around with being able to do whatever they want because they've got the code and then being like, this is fun.
Thing,
What if this was the game?
Yeah.
And
it's
you're
funny
right.
that even Nintendo has a thing where they're just mucking around as mates and they're like, this should be the show. We should build like a studio and just do this in front of some cameras, man.
Great ability, though.
Yeah.
I love the Ascend ability.
Dude, all of the new abilities are way better than any of the ones that you were using in Breath of the Wild, in my opinion. So
I missed the bomb.
Sure, I like having the bomb flowers as a replacement, though.
Yeah.
Being able to fuse them to your arrows and shit. So
I kind of forgot what all of them were, honestly, because,
Right. Well, we'll do... I'll say here, we'll do some... If you've not gone in yet, I think it's a game where a lot of my enjoyment from it comes from the pleasant surprises and stuff you're getting and the cool little ideas that jump out at you during the game. So we'll do a bit here where we're not trying to spoil anything.
Yeah, we're not going to spoil like plot stuff at all, obviously. That's just not going to happen.
And just in terms of what you're doing in the game, we'll be a bit more broad.
Yeah.
And then at some point we'll go, and now we'll talk about like what we've been doing and what's fun. More specifics. Because
we'll do like the written version, like the written review where you just touch on the, good points, bad points, compare it to the previous one. And as you would, not spoil anything in that.
We'll be, you're right, as usual, cool.
This conversation is going to be all over the place, much like the experience of playing Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, where you're like, I'm going off in this direction, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that over there? A little riff about Anuma hacking his own game.
It's nice as well having these video podcasts that I had in my head. What's going to happen there is I'm going to say the word cool, and then it's going to cut to you and your Peter Pan costume.
Okay. All right. There's still plenty of people listening audio only who are like, stop talking about the video.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But do you think in terms of Anuma, the Ascend ability coming from them sort of... Do you think they maybe formalised that in the game because the higher-ups at Nintendo went, what's that? You've modded our game. We're coming after you with a copyright. It's like, oh, no, it's official. It's part of the game.
No, the Ascend ability is a tribute to you, the higher-ups. And they're like, makes sense.
So did you guys have this? This is my experience. I stayed up until midnight. I was like, you know what? It's been 6 years. I want to go in midnight on the dot. You start the game up. It's like kind of cold open, black screen, Nintendo presents Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And then you're in a cave. You're straight in. There's no menu when you boot up the game. You do one little thing where Zelda talks to you and you're watching a little cutscene. You can't pause or do anything yet. You get no options when you load up the game. And then she gives out one bit of dialogue in English. And then the very second I paused and I went straight into the options menu and turned the language to Japanese.
Yeah, I've left it...
made the voice acting way more bearable, as I found with Breath of the Wild.
The voice acting isn't good in this game for some reason. Again, I mean, I guess because they've gotten a lot of the same people back. Or like, I was wondering if... Because they all have like this... Zelda has it especially, this sort of weird affectation where I guess it's when Americans try to do an English accent.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's fantasy accent, right?
I wonder though if like you meet the like audio director of this game and they'd be like, hello, nice to meet you. So every direction they begin is like, maybe you could try it a little more like this.
It's Louis Theroux's mum.
Yeah.
Louise Theroux is in the booth giving them bad direction.
I don't mind the voice acting, honestly. Like it reads as very cliche.
It's cartoony for sure.
It's cartoony. That's it. And I find that to be just built into the aesthetic of the whole game. The whole, especially mentally comparing it to Elden Ring. It's functionally, it's so similar.
Right.
The layout, the levels of explorability and stuff. Just the whole thing is like, this is like, not children's version, but
like Nintendo version.
Version, yeah. So I think it because the aesthetic is kind of a piece, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I just found that funny that like you don't get the option of selecting that at the beginning of the game. So even the person who's gone in as quickly as possible to change the language, everyone has still had to hear that one bit of English Zelda dialogue at the very, very beginning.
Yeah, there's a weird difference as well with the translation where the English in your like adventure log in your little fake Switch thing, it's just sort of normal kind of third person removed descriptions of what you goals are and everything.
Yep.
In the Japanese and I think the Spanish version or the French version or something too, it's all from Link's first person narration.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like his diary.
Right.
Which is a weird thing to sort of miss out on over here.
That's so much cooler, yeah.
Bit of immersion, yeah.
Yeah, I realised too, I guess, when did they stop doing the thing with these games that you name your character at the start, that it doesn't have to be Link?
Definitely in Breath of the Wild, because they were saying when voice acting came in, like
So I guess
going,
Skyward
Link,
Sword
Link.
was the last one, right? Where you
They might.
you
I don't remember.
Even then, it might have been gone.
Yeah.
Which is like a funny, like that is a weird like JRPG thing that like the character has like a formal name.
Yeah.
But you still do just get the option of having it be whoever you want.
Yeah.
That it's funny that the Zelda series is now gone. No, fuck you.
Yeah,
His name's Zelda.
Yeah. Buttface's name is actually Link.
We don't want you to be able to role play within this game.
No.
So you're going to have to take matters into your own hands, go into Hot Potatoes and spend $23 on a Peter Pan costume.
And change your name to Link.
Yes.
Yeah. Long time coming. I think also I was going to say we knew for some reason, maybe through a leak, relatively early, that it was going to be in this literally the same physical map.
I think they said that relatively quick as well. Yeah. That they've said that was kind of what they were thinking while they were even making Breath of the Wild.
Right.
They were like, we like this place we've made.
Yeah.
And we're gonna. And that was the thing I was probably the most skeptical about with this game before it came out. I've vacuumed up all of the shit in Breath of the Wild twice. I played it on the Wii U and on the Switch. I
sure
loved
you weren't
that
playing
game.
Kirby? You vacuumed it all up?
Shit, I am wrong.
Yeah.
Tommy, you should be wearing a big round pink costume. So take that off and just be naked.
Don't drag me into this. You look stupid right now, okay? Let me have this just couple of minutes.
But
I don't know. I did stumble over the word vacuum, so I think we all look stupid.
Vacuum? Sound like my dog, terrified of the vacuum.
Your dog can say vacuum. Oh.
Yeah.
The landmass is the same.
Yes.
But it is very changed. It's been sort of, I don't know if anyone specifically says how long it's been since Breath of the Wild, but a few years it seems like.
Well, people
Stuff's
have
changed
like
quite
aged,
a bit.
right?
Yeah.
We've seen characters in Breath of the Wild grow up from child to like adult. I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon.
The magic little girl's now a magic little teen. Pretty weird because she's that thing where they're like, she's 100, so it's fine. But the everyone who you met in that first game, or a lot of them, you'll re-meet. They'll be doing something else. The towns have changed.
Yes.
Stuff's progressed and people's lives have moved forward. And I
Yeah.
love re-exploring this world and seeing all of that stuff. It's really working for me. And so the thing I was the most tentative on, they've done it.
Yeah, I think that is still, it's got that same level of discovery because stuff has changed enough.
Yeah.
But there's also, there's stuff in the sky.
Yeah,
It's
there's
like the
new
big thing of
stuff.
this.
Yeah.
There's like all these floating islands, and I'm just loving the overall kind of like story and tone of like all these people that you meet, this kind of like weird vibe of everyone being like, you see all this shit up in the sky?
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty weird, hey? I love how everyone's just kind of standing around being like, yeah, what's going on?
Yeah,
it's
is
all
it
a bit
the-
nutty, isn't it?
Could be the end of the world.
Yeah. We had that apocalypse happen, and we're currently in. So
Yeah.
I just love
Wait,
this tone.
wait. Link. Everyone's doing that.
Yeah.
Why? It's the swordsman Link.
Yeah, I just
I
love
love it.
this weird
Say
kind
my
of
fucking
tone
name.
of like,
I'm famous.
the world's, clearly like the world is ending.
Yeah.
But people are a bit just like awestruck by it, and you find little bits where people are doing like basically sort of like tourist trap kind of stuff around
Yeah.
like this like stuff that's like fallen out of the sky into their town and all that kind of stuff.
Like
I just love
researchers
that.
are excited by it, and
Yeah.
it's got a little bit of the sort of Majora's Mask thing that came after Ocarina, where it's the same stuff again, sort of, but then a little weird and a little feels strange.
Because I've always loved that tone that Majora's has, like, and how it's like super weird.
Yeah.
And I really, given that that's like the direct comparison of like, really the only other direct Zelda sequel on a
There's
console.
been a link
those
to
handheld
a Link
ones.
Between Worlds
yes, that's
was like
right.
a Link to the Past sequel, but that was a 3DS game.
Yeah.
Too. But yeah. There's it
like on the
doesn't-
I kind of thought, oh, that'll be cool if it's like a super weird version of it, and kind of everything in the marketing in the lead up didn't really seem like it was doing that. So I'm glad to see that it is in there, like
a bit, not to the same extent.
not
that
too- No, I was
Majora's
gonna
was,
say,
but-
It's
yeah.
not Big Crazy Moon or anything like that, but like, they're just the actual like vibe of being out in the world, where in Breath of the Wild it was just like, here's this world,
Yeah.
and then this is like, here's the same mass, but it's all fucked up now, and weird stuff is happening, and people don't know what's going on.
I think it's just like revisiting the same place where everything is and like so it doesn't matter how much you explored Breath of the Wild, they've changed stuff all over the shop.
Yeah.
So that even though you are re-exploring the same landmass that you kind of know, I found myself getting like disoriented again, and like stuff is significantly different. So it's not that it's the tone is like Majora's that much in like its weirdness, but it is a strange kind of surreal feeling to be walking around this same place with as much progression as they've put into this. I think it's a really
well, you
cool
feel like
effect.
you're in it, right? Like if this game just existed by itself, it'd be like, hey, here's this world, and some stuff started falling from the sky.
Right.
But it's like, well, I have no context for the world. And the fact that, some people have played this game through multiple times, or like I'm in the position where I only played it at the time 6 years ago, but I did put like 100 hours into it. So yeah, you spent so much time in this world, and you're like, you feel like you are living in it. It's like, oh yeah, it is all fucked up.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
this big ring has fallen out of the sky.
Stuff
like-
changes in the real world, and it's changed in Zelda world too.
it's like I feel like I'm kind of one of these characters, like I am having the same response to all this stuff.
I mean, you look like it too.
God damn it.
He's wearing a Link costume, everybody. So that is really cool. So every like bit of the world has changed with new stuff for you to do.
Yes.
That is similar to the stuff you were doing in Breath of the Wild, but like a new
You've got shrines
platter
still.
of it.
You've got other things to discover and collect.
bits and pieces in the world. Some guys will be standing around being like, yeah, we set up this weird game for you to play
Right.
here. All that shit is back. Koroks are around.
And I guess more like generally like combat is the same. The interfaces have been tweaked a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of like more fluidity and intuitiveness to them.
There's still some problems with them that we'll get into for sure.
Yeah, big problems.
But big things that crazy that they were even in the first game. Like if you open a chest and there's a weapon in there and you don't have an inventory slot for it.
Right.
In Breath of the Wild, you had to. It would just boot you out. Then you would have to go into your inventory yourself, drop a thing, and then open the thing again. This time, it just gives you the option to like, hey, do you want to drop something in? Which crazy that was never patched into Breath of the Wild, and crazy that it was in there in the first place.
Some stuff like that is sort of fixed up.
So, like weirdly, picking a weapon up off the ground does make you just be like, okay, open your weapon wheel and drop something.
It'll be like,
you
don't have space for that.
Yeah.
Selling stuff in shops, which like this is an exploration game. You go out, you walk around, you pick up a bunch of shit, and then when you go back to a shop, you have to sell every item individually, or not like every different kind of item.
Right, like if you want to sell
time.
rubies, it'll ask you how many, but then
you can't go through your whole thing. And tick, tick,
so it's
tick,
like,
and then...
like last night, I had a good session, a couple of hours. Like did I think the second sort of like thing, the big thing.
Right, yeah.
And I had heaps of shit, and it took me like literally 10 minutes of just selling shit in a shop, and then I'm like, okay. Well, I did want to buy, some armor, so I have to sell all this stuff.
It really is funny when you think about like the absolute like top level of stuff in this game where you go, wow, they thought of everything. Like you discover something that makes like so much sense contextually in the world, or it's like, a little guy talks about a thing and then there's like, oh, right, that's that.
I love that's back from Breath of the Wild, that rather than you do get points on your compass for like some missions of like, here's vaguely where to go, but that someone will just say to you, I saw something up that way.
Yes,
and then if you go up that way, the thing's there. It feels so natural.
Like the top level of this game, they've thought about everything. And then at the bottom, like base level, there's all these things where it's like they've thought of none of it.
So
like,
there's a few things with the interface that are like my only sort of peevy things that I'm getting, where like if you're... So you've got all these new abilities. That's like the biggest change to the gameplay from the first.
They take away the original ones, which I assumed that you would be adding to them.
Me too.
Why, do kind of replace the function of a lot of them. Like you get a grab thing that replaces magnesis, because magnesis you can move metal objects.
Yes.
And now you can move so much shit.
And attach stuff to other stuff. By the way, like there's kind of a running thing of the little kind of thing that's in a Zelda game, the little kind of one of the main little tools that Link has often relates is kind of like a reference to the hardware that the game is on.
Oh, yeah.
And so with the little slate that he has in Breath of the Wild, it's like, oh, that's the Wii U gamepad / the Switch kind of thing.
Right.
And so it's funny thinking about the idea that this was maybe going to be on a Switch Pro, which never eventuated. And then his thing in this is just like his hand has all the powers. It's like, damn, was the Switch Pro going to be the Power Glove too?
I'm glad they didn't do it.
Nah, strap me in, whatever. I'm up for whatever. They get me.
Mm-hmm. But they have, and I think we did discuss like what's going to replace the Sheikah Slate. Is it just going to be a Switch? And it is. It's just it's
his hand.
Kind of the same.
The powers are coming from his...
You've got the Switch.
You've got the Switch, but his little powers are coming from his... Because, it's funny talking about, in the last couple of weeks, a thing that people really loved about Jedi Survivor was that as a sequel, people were saying like, oh, it's so refreshing to start up a sequel where you just have all the powers that you accumulated at the end of the first game.
Yes.
Like you're not having to... They don't come up with some bullshit conceit and it's like literally a week later... They absolutely Metroid the fuck out of you in this in a very a very like overt way, which is like fine. Like that's the game. Like
I don't miss any of the old powers though, because like the ice one I never used, the freeze one, the reverse thing you get now is better.
Yeah.
So I think everything you're doing now, the powers are just way more interesting. I'm using that ascend thing way more than I thought I was.
Yeah,
I don't use fuse at all.
Fuse is great. You got to use it on all your weapons every time.
Yeah. Well, I haven't needed to.
Well, have fun.
I use Ascend all the time because I love exploring.
Yeah.
And the Ultra Hand, which great name.
Yeah.
I use for when it's called for, like in shrines and stuff like that for puzzles. I'm not really like building shit. Like
Right.
I as much as I expected to. Like I'm not making cars to drive. I'm just like, no, I'm just riding a horse or
That's
climbing
interesting.
around.
I've sort
Because
of
I'm
just been
just
getting
doing it
from-
for fun, and I didn't
Right.
expect to
So,
have
'cause-
that feeling because I don't do it with games like Rust or Minecraft or
Right.
any of those sort of make your own fun construction games.
I've seen this criticism, and I do agree that it's probably the reason I'm not going more in on it is that it's very fiddly.
Right.
I've seen a lot of people, some of our patrons, some of the reviews that have still given it 10 have been like, the controls for Ultra Hand, the rotating, the perspective stuff is not very intuitive, and so I don't find it
Interesting.
fun to build stuff with it.
Yeah, you know what?
It's more of a trial.
Well, you know what would have made that a bit easier? The power glove.
Oh my god, 2 power
It's
gloves.
all adding up.
Yeah.
You put your old Labo VR headset on, you get your 2 power gloves on, and you're in.
The Labo cardboard glove for Tears of the Kingdom.
I've found that weirdly easy to use, and I
Right.
guess it's just like so much of the game is built around this really fucking good kind of physics engine that they've got that more than is often the case in games, I am able to apply my real world understanding of how something will move and act to the game, and I'll be right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same as Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
It's the same engine, so yeah.
If there's a
Right.
reason why it should work, then it will work.
Totally.
Right,
and
right.
that is, they've just taken that worked in Breath of the Wild, but you didn't really end up doing as much with.
Yeah.
Like-
Unless, again, you were like a YouTuber who was like skating down mountains on shields and
Exactly.
setting
Yeah.
up,
Like swords would conduct electricity and shit like that, but there's
Yeah.
like one time when you use that in Breath of the Wild, and
You can
there's
pick
just
up,
more
like,
opportunity for it in this
metal
one.
boxes and drop
Right.
them on enemies and stuff like that. But you weren't able to like stitch things together
No.
in the way that you do with this.
And you can
yeah.
build massive things, and it's
Yeah.
really cranked up the focus on that stuff for me. But interestingly, it sounds like you don't need to. So the fact that you can play it sort of creatively, whatever sort of way you want. There's multiple solutions to things, but not in a kind of cheesy, broken way. Like sometimes some of the shrines in Breath of the Wild, it's like, oh, I figured out this dumb way to get through this.
Right,
It doesn't feel like you're fucking it up.
Right, it feels like they've considered that as an option.
Yeah.
Building
every-
a massive
yeah.
bridge out of 10 planks that gets you across a gap is just as viable as sticking a rocket to a thing and shooting yourself over. And
Yeah, because most of the shrines are based around the little challenge.
Tommy's dressed as Link, by the way. I just remembered.
Most of the shrines are based around, some form of fusing ability. Like that'll be the little puzzle that you have to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And none of them that I've encountered so far are terribly difficult. They feel more like they're just getting you to have a little bit of fun with the ability, and then also inspire you to be like, hey, by the way, here's something that you could use out in the world if you want to.
Right.
And yeah, I've kind of just been going from A to B, and then in the last day or so, I've done a main bit, and I'm just into the time of fucking around a bit now. And so coming up on a camp of little guys and being like, I could go over there and just hit them all, but I got a little plank here and a little rocket. What if I just send this flying into them? What if I just make a little flying block of wood and see what that does? So yeah, I mean, I haven't come across any bits in the world where it's like I've needed to use these abilities, but yeah, I am just at a point now where I'm starting to muck around with them. And I agree. I read that a lot of the previews were talking about how the controls for the Ultra Hand were a bit fiddly.
Right.
But other than you have a lot of different kind of wheels and kind of getting in and out of that stuff, to select things. I find myself having to spend a couple of seconds being like, wait, which one do I press to get into that?
Right.
But once I'm using the thing, moving it around, I'm actually I'm not finding it that fiddly, weirdly.
It's going to probably change person to person based on a spatial reasoning type of thing, I guess, because it is very you can end up with them on a weird diagonal angle and go,
Yeah.
oh, wait, which way should I get it to go now to fix that? But I've found it fairly clean to use. I've enjoyed it, and it to the point where I have been encouraged by how simple it's been to use it just for fun. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
when there's a camp of people, I'm trying stuff out because I feel like it.
Right,
which
right.
doesn't because and often with games it'll be like, well, you have to design it with the fact that most players will take the path of least resistance. So if you can just use a machine gun and zip through everything, people will. So you need to artificially constrict people or whatever and have reasons for these challenges to be necessary.
Or if you're doing it in this way, it's for some, like you'll unlock a bigger reward for doing it that way. This doesn't give you... Yeah, this doesn't give you
rewards for doing anything are generally bullshit. You'll get some stupid thing that you're not going to use. But
apart from the shrines, like the things do, and it's the same as the first. And they do the thing where they take the powers away. They replace them with I agree, better ones.
Yeah, the powers plus the hearts and the stamina gets
all your health.
You got to redo
all your
that.
stamina.
Yeah, which is funny because
that's the reason that you do the shrines.
Yeah, it's funny because at the very beginning in the little very very opening bit, Link's got 30 hearts or something like that, as in to be like, oh, from following on from the last one. But it's like, you could have whatever number of hearts it was funny to imagine someone playing this who was one of those freaks who beat it in 30 minutes with only the 3 hearts, being like, actually.
Well, I didn't play it to the extent that you start this game with. That's the other thing. So the combat is only important when it's only necessary to beat bosses. Like you can just skirt every other battle.
A lot of the time, there's some shrines or whatever little challenges.
Little combat challenges,
and mini bosses
that in the world,
usually story or shrine based. But the thing that I like about, say, an Elden Ring is that you upgrade your power level. You get stronger, combat gets easier, or you get, different powers and different weapons so you can approach harder bosses or combat in a different way. But Breath of the Wild and this, you just kind of get weapons or don't get weapons, You're
getting more stuff as you go along, and especially if you use... So the other ability is the fuse one, which lets you... It's similar to the construction ability, but just specifically for weapons and shields and arrows. You can snap other items to them and make you've got a sword with a gem on it, and that'll turn it into a wand that shoots fire, or then so on, stuff like that.
I made a whip using its
so
tail.
You get stronger weapons, but you don't get stronger. You don't get more strength or anything like that.
You get your hearts and your stamina. Which
I know what you mean. It is the way you're wired with how these games sort of usually work. Is you find yourself kind of abruptly taking on a big kind of enemy, a sort of mini boss like enemy in the world, and I always have a moment of being like, oh, this is going to be sweet when I take this guy down. There's going to be some huge payday here, mad XP, I'm going to end up with, and then you just get a
banana.
it is it is very much, but that's the philosophy of the whole game. It's it's the journey, it's not the destination.
Right.
It's it's the same with Breath of the Wild, where it's a lot of people are like, no, the Ganon fight at the end pretty weak, but it's it's just there for you to have something to do to kind of close off the whole circle. But it's I think most people would say about Breath of the Wild, their favorite parts of the game and the best parts of the game were just bullshit they were doing along the way. I don't think you'd find many people being like, oh, X Divine Beast was the best part of this game.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean with the because I remember when Ocarina of Time came out, it was around the same time as Final Fantasy VII, and in the magazines at the time, people were comparing the two because Zelda was Nintendo's RPG, is the way people were looking at it at the time, and I always found that weird because it's not, because you're not doing the Final Fantasy stuff, but.
It's never had XP. It's never had any of those things. It's always been real time.
And you're not even really getting your items like the hook shot and whatever in the same way that you were in the older ones, where then you can get to these areas because you've got this new thing.
Right.
Because you're kind of creating your own ways to do that stuff, and you've got a lot of it pretty early on. Mm-hmm. It's not that same type of progression for the most part, but
you saying that just made me go, fuck, I reckon I could make a hook shot in this.
The reason I brought it up is because I think I was one of those people who finished Breath of the Wild with I don't know, 15 hearts, or I didn't go crazy, I didn't go all out with it. I did just kind of follow the main quests and enjoyed discovering the Koroks and clocking a bunch of shrines, but I didn't get close to 100% of the content.
I think it's such a cool thing about both of these games now, though, too, where you can do it whatever way you want. Whatever way feels fun for you, it won't block you from doing that. Even if, the way that you're doing it is like, well, I'm just going to run here and easily slash at someone with this sword and whatever. Like, it does have, and this one more so even maybe than Breath of the Wild, you benefit from making your own fun in a way that is similar to those types of more creative-y kind of, I've never played Roblox, but that like,
Right.
it's that sort of like, I'm getting into fights I don't need to get into because I'm having a hard time in my life, and but because it's fun, because it's like I'm making these stupid weapons by snapping two things together. It's whatever it is about this one. That system is so well built that it's clicked in with me, and I'm super
and you find
experimental.
So you're finding like bits of wood and stuff like that, but then there's also this kind of the people that are in the sky. It's like you're finding bits of their technology around, and then you're finding these little gachapon machines where you're putting stuff in to get the little more sort of like technology sort of based things that can really step up the things that you're making. And I feel like the way that you just gradually discover them out in the world too. Like it doesn't kind of give you everything all at once. So like I did a shrine where it had a new little thing in it, and it was like, oh, cool. That's in the, the first time I found a little thing that was like meant I could make a car and then steer it. Like I had assumed I just would have to be, I don't know, putting fans on either side and like operating them. I was like, this is still pretty rudimentary. And then once you start to get deeper into it and find like,
crazy
shit. They've given you like, you can like, and if you've been looking on Twitter or anything this week in relation to this game, like people have already made like full on mechs that they're just like
ridiculous
walking
shit.
Around blowing people up with, which again, like, I don't have the best brain for the physicsy kind of stuff, so I do get a little bit paralyzed by like...
And I'll edit it just before you say for physicsy kind of stuff.
Unless it's like kind of given me... Like it's kind of shown me a thing to do, which is what I'm liking about the shrines for like that inspiration. Like I don't have the kind of mind of like, having 8 of the bits of materials in front of me and then being like, oh, well, obviously I could make this robot out of it.
Right.
Like,
I've seen a lot of people being like, finally my mechanical engineering degree has come in handy.
Which finally.
Yeah.
But like, it is cool that it is well designed enough to give you multiple options for whatever sort of level of complexity you want to approach it with.
Which I sort of view this stuff as like secondary to the actual game. You know, it's like these are mechanics that are in the game. It's like having a game that packs in a level builder with it. It's like, well, that's not like the game. The game I think is really, really good. I think the story is way better than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
There's much more thought that's gone into it, it feels like.
You're doing these little quests where you're finding these little things around that are giving you these like little cutscenes of backstory, and I'm really liking all them. Like I've kind of prioritized going and trying to find them because it's like I kind of want to see more of what's going on here.
We'll talk about that more, but you mentioned backstory there, and the story of some backs is that they're too hairy. And a way that you can deal with that particular tail if you need to. If you've got enough hair that it looks like a tail, you can use Manscaped things.
Yeah. As well put together as the construction mechanic in Tears of the Kingdom.
Those crazy bastards have snapped together some blades and some high quality...
And little engine, I guess?
Yeah.
How does an electric razor work?
I think there's a battery in there, a little charging dock. But Manscaped make good shit. If you've listened to this before, you've heard us talk about them before. And what I've said before remains true today.
If you haven't listened before, let's reiterate it for all the new people out there.
Yeah, I'm Link from The Legend of Zelda. Is there a way for me to get this product shipped to my home of Hyrule for free?
Yeah, there actually is.
I imagine your genitals are probably hairless, but if they're not, you can get free shipping and 20% off.
You haven't seen some of the pictures I've seen in the past week or so.
Ganon he'd be rocking a bush.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, big time.
He could use a little bit of trimming on the red hair down there.
I've seen Link and Pura get very close.
Oh, okay. You've been looking quickly. It's not been out for a... But they...
No, it was just just in the trending topic of Tears of the Kingdom.
God.
Whoa, mama.
Yeah.
I get angry at people doing that stuff. I'm like, you can draw something better. Draw one of the products that Manscaped sells.
Keep it up. If Da Vinci had been alive today, I reckon he'd have drawn the Fairly Odd Parents fucking or whatever.
Well, he drew that dude with like 4 legs and 4 arms.
Yeah, people would have looked at his painting of Scooby-Doo and been like, does he have a boner or does he not? You can't really tell. That's the magical thing about this painting.
If you want to shave around your boner, Manscaped sells some great stuff. The Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker 2.0. You need them in your life. Buy them using the code FILTHY at manscaped.com and get free shipping and 20% off. And do that. Pop them in your little bathroom cabinet. Have them there for the rest of your life.
Manscaped, 20% off, free shipping, the code FILTHY. And while you're on the internet looking up your filthy, disgusting Zelda porn, you better make sure you're using NordVPN to keep yourself nice and secure and anonymous while you're doing that. Maybe some other countries have better Rule 34 porn. I'm not going to pretend like I don't know the term.
I thought you were going to say like better security against, like parental controls.
No, the opposite.
Okay, all right.
NordVPN are a good VPN service. They're the one that I use, that Ben uses.
Yes.
That Tommy, I believe, uses.
Tommy's using it right now.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I'm pretending to be from a different place.
How do you think you got that costume? They wouldn't sell that in Australia. It's illegal. But NordVPN also offer you a deal if you go to nordvpn.com/filthy.
Yes.
You get a whole bunch of free months.
You do. If you sign up for 2 years, you get 4 months free, which is insane.
Yeah.
And a discount on top of that. So for something that you need if you use the internet, we recommend, because they pay us to recommend them, NordVPN. Go to .com/filthy. Whoo, all of that free stuff and a big old discount.
Yep, I recommend them anyway, but luckily I don't have to.
That's true. Yeah. Nox and I used NordVPN before they became a sponsor.
Yeah, so. They're good, but also
joke's on them. We could have recommended it for free.
Well, we got a transaction and you're not backing out of it.
Yeah.
So the story we were talking about.
The story
I agree
of Legend
that it
of
is.
Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom.
It's more interesting, I agree, than the first. Like, it's presented in a similar way. And look, I suppose for this sort of back half here, maybe this is the point where we'll start talking
bit more specific,
a little bit more, not like wrecking it for anybody, not spoiling it heavily, but if you really want to go in cold, which is a fun way to do it, A, you probably have been for the last week anyway, if you're that excited about it. Yeah. And B, it's really worth jumping into this thing and like letting it surprise you, because it's built to surprise you as much as it can. That's like a huge part of why this game is so Moorish and enjoyable.
I was saying to you, Adam, before we started recording that first couple of days I just wasn't looking at anything, opening any like chats or groups or anything like that. And I'm at the point now where I'm just kind of enjoying seeing other people's stuff that they've found and like getting little recommendations of like, hey, I won't say why, but it's worth going here. Have a look. You find something cool. Like, I'm kind of at that point of like, I'm just devouring all that kind of stuff. So,
well, maybe before we go any deeper, we should get some of those other opinions from other people.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much, specifics, but just, stuff that people have been doing. And
what have our patrons drawn and who are they fucking? Patreon.com/filthycasualspod is where people are to have a little comment about what you're thinking of games we're talking about.
Yeah.
Who's that guy? Toro. I reckon there's some pretty buff drawings of him out there.
Which one? I don't know.
He's like the surveyor guy, the real ripped dude who's like leading the cave exploration.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, almost any of them. I'd love to see the guy who's setting up all the the big signs around with the president on them.
Yeah.
Him holding up,
working for Hudson,
being unable to figure out how to keep Hudson's dick standing, and it keeps falling over in drawings.
Not to tangent off from something I was going to start talking about, but they said Hudson is in the first game.
Yeah, he is. Hudson's construction company. He gets you to recruit some other people with Sun. Yeah,
right.
Okay.
The whole Tarrytown stuff is one of the sidest things about it, though. Yeah.
I mustn't have. Yeah, okay. Let's see what have we got here. Lewis, longtime patron Lewis, says, I can't believe I ever doubted those mad lads in Nintendo. I'm loving it just as much as the first. It does just feel like the most deluxe DLC ever, but given Breath of the Wild is one of my old-timers, I couldn't be happier about that. Just like God of War Ragnarok and Jedi Survivor, sometimes more of a good thing is the right choice, which I think covers my overall sentiment. I think I'm probably a little bit more like... I don't know. I tend to have this thing with reviews where if they don't cover the negatives that are there, it feels sort of like unfair or biased, or like someone should be doing it. Like, it's odd that all of those 10 out of 10 reviews haven't mentioned it. Like, it's very similar to the first.
Right.
And something that a few other people mention, I'll see if I can find a good representative one.
I think there's something about that while you're having a look, like it is true that like this is very close to the first one in a kind of 1-2 punch way, like Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 were for me, where it feels like a set in this way, but like it is something that I can be down on with other games too. There is something with this, and it's annoying that it happens with Nintendo games because they're the ones that people go like, blah, 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 about, but there's some sort of, I don't know what it is, I can't quantify it, but there's an X factor that they put in to some of this stuff where I was trying to think about it from the perspective of like, because I know you're not as hot on this game as me or Tommy are.
Right, but I'm like an 8 out of 10 rather than a 10 or something.
And it's like, I can see the perspective where this is like, how is this being responded to so differently from like an Assassin's Creed or something where they cop so much shit for being the same thing again, where they're this big open world with lots of stuff to do, but like,
and this one's like literally the same open world,
but there's some imaginative potion they're chucking in there that really is just so creative all of the time that it doesn't register to me as samey in a bad way for this. I don't know what it is. It's just that I wanted more of the same thing.
Feeling like my worry was that this would feel like, just the same map with some shit chucked in it.
Yeah.
And
it's definitely more than that, for sure.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's like you say, like, it's more of the same, and to me it is more of the same, but that goes right down to like the feeling of playing it, like the feeling of discovery, and like even though you can't ever recreate that feeling of playing Breath of the Wild for the first time, but god damn it comes close. And I really think that's
surprisingly close.
I think that's so interesting that they've managed to do that for something that, to take something that people already, like a lot of people already thought was like as close to perfect as you can get, that, you know, when it was out, people were like, a bit more enemy variety would be good, but there really weren't any things about it overall that the people who loved it thought, oh, this could be improved upon. And then they've brought out this version of it that's improved it. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't looking at Breath of the Wild being like, it's lacking in these areas.
Right.
But then they've just, and
it's just all new ideas in the same thing, which I think is the difference between something where it feels like more of the same and a like, oh, I've done this already way. It's more of the same and I get to keep doing this.
Well, I think, there's a comment here from Joel who says they're about 10 hours in. And they're liking it very much, but without the sense of discovery from Breath of the Wild, everything feels a bit tedious. I don't think it feels tedious, but I
can see that happening.
I don't feel the same sense of discovery as with Breath of the Wild. Right. And like the Sky Islands, and then there's like another area which is also cool and has not been really publicized.
Yeah.
They feel more like bonus levels or something rather than a genuinely new parallel world to explore.
They're not as massive and sort of complex as that world felt the first time in Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
And like, I think exploring a completely new place would probably have been even more exciting to me than this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, there are times when I have been walking through a place where I was before, and in the bits that they've not changed that much, I'm like, oh yeah, I was here a few weeks ago when I played Breath of the Wild some more.
Yeah, I wonder but like, if you're making a big map and you make just another big map, is the problem then like, well, I'm exploring a different landmass, but, you know, the Breath of the Wild, you know, like what, like, sure, it's all the paths are all different and things are different, but like, how much difference can you really throw in? You know what I mean?
Well, you can't have new Snow Mountain. You can't have new desert place, and it's just the same but with a different name or whatever.
But it might not have been Snow Mountain desert. Like this,
exactly.
You know,
you
it's
have
literally
to do that.
It's like a very video game tropey of like, or even, you know, like a Mario game. It's like, well, we have Grass Town and we have Winter Town and we have Lava Town. I think, Ben, not me, a different Ben, says it doesn't quite recapture the magic of discovering Breath of the Wild's open world for the first time, but the new mechanics are wild, and I think I prefer the story set up this time around. Might as well have been my review, actually.
I think I agree with that too. Like, it's definitely... I'm very surprised that they've done the thing of, like... I'm trying to think of other games that have, I guess, like, the GTA 4 expansions and, Grand Theft Auto Liberty City story, but there's been things that have reused the same map, and it's not as interesting as this has managed to make.
Right. I mean, to talk about the sense of discovery, a brand new map would be, you're discovering these things for the first time again, but I feel like it would still ultimately be a bit more of the same. But for me, it's like the sense of discovery in this that is, to me, more interesting than just a fresh map is like, oh, I wonder what's going on in Kakariko Village. And, like, they have really thought about all of this stuff. And, I love, like, because you're right, like, the new areas that are in there, they're not incredibly expansive, but they still, like, I was worried that they would just feel patched on, but they just do have such a reason for being in there. Like, there is such a strong justification within the story and everything. And it doesn't just feel like, oh yeah, here's some shit in the sky because we got a bit more horsepower developing it on the Switch than the Wii U. It's like...
And every place you go to, I think similar to like Bowser's Fury or something, it all has a purpose for being there, and there's something fun to do everywhere. Yes. And most of those fun things that they've come up with for you to do this time are new, are evolutions of what was in the previous thing, but they don't feel often like rehashes. There are a couple of Koroks who've been in the same spot where I'm like, all right, I guess you hit here again. But other than things like that, which are certainly there.
And there's just literally one other negative to get out of the way, which I've seen a few people comment on, and it seems quite stark to me, and like should have maybe taken a point off some reviews, because the reviews do mention the look and performance.
I thought you were going to say it's too woke again.
So Brad says, Tears has some interesting ideas and are implemented fairly well, but the limitations of the hardware make it look so rough that it's sometimes jarring. And a few people have mentioned that, like, it just it doesn't run well. There's been frame rate dips, and I think that is fair criticism. Like I thought there was something wrong with my Switch. I think it's when, like, there's maybe an artificial light source in sort of a scene, torches and stuff, but casting the shadows on character models, it looks like there's something wrong. Like it used to happen with like an OpenGL graphics driver being too old, and it's like you can see the like pixelization or like the pointillization of the edges of shadows and stuff.
Interesting. I can't say I've really noticed that particular thing, but it certainly does run fine. It runs fine to not good at times. Like when you've got sort of a big particle effect or something happening, it can fucking fall apart. Similar to the way that Breath of the Wild did at times. It's not quite as bad as that was, I don't think. It's weirdly a little better somehow.
I think they've toned down a lot of sort of the effects. I do think like I
think that pixelizing is probably something to do with the overall graphical effect of like the sort of semi-cell shadedy sort of thing
that
they're going for. I think I was so like ready for this to be a complete disaster. Like the last year of technical stuff of the Switch has been pretty bad at times. And seeing what this was going for in trailers, I'm on here multiple times saying, I'm really worried. I don't know how they're going to get this to work. And so I came into it with pretty low expectations / fears that it would really ruin it. And it is noticeable, like it dips at time. It's not, high res or anything. But I think, given what they're doing with it, I think it's still like you can stand on the edge of a vista up in the sky and kind of like move the camera around and kind of like see everything off to a distance and all these different islands. I'm like, I think it's still, given what they're doing with it, I think they've, most of all, like, and the dips that are happening, they're happening for reasons where like, yeah, like there's specific, like lots of enemies on screen. You go into a village.
Yeah.
And like for something that has this like pretty complex physics engine where there's so much freedom in what you can
that
do.
shit never
the fact
seems
that
to
it's-
break it.
And the fact that it's launching without bugs, like it's got some performance issues and dips, but it's not like you're building a car and then it's like clipping all the way off to the side.
No, not
like,
at all. All
Right.
that physics shit, you can get like a ton of balls all in the one spot, Manscaped, and you like they're all just fucking bouncing off of each other and everything's fine. It's really like it's such a weird one because I'm being like actually impressed often, especially being up in the sky and jumping down and everything's fine and like all of that stuff. But then just like objectively, it is way behind the times.
Yeah.
Like the Switch is, I believe, roughly equivalent to sort of like a 360 or something.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
a little bit more. But so this is running on almost, you could say, 20-ish year old hardware, sort of. in a way. So like when you give it that caveat, which maybe it doesn't deserve, because like, well, why is this still what we've got? But then it just is, you know what I mean? It's a complicated one where it runs really well for the tiny little shitty thing that it's got to be on.
I think if it ran perfectly, it would be less of a thing. It'd be much more like, well, you take a hit on graphical fidelity,
and it's like a handheld
effects
game
and stuff.
technically.
Right?
Yeah.
It's when I'm in it, I'm not really thinking about it or worried. Like it, I'm noticing
I think about
that
it when I'm in a
dips.
boss fight and it like the frame rate dips so much that I like miss a shot. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I didn't notice it in that same boss fight, weirdly,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, but probably not. It's probably just that, like,
And it was like snowing. You know, it's like, when a bunch of things happen in the game that require a graphics card to do something.
Yeah.
Too many things happen, then it slows down.
and I think we had sort of the opposite thing with Jedi Survivor recently, where like you didn't really notice it, and you were like, yeah, it's running fine for me.
Yeah,
and
well,
for whatever reason, that one I was like, I noticed the hitches for some reason.
Yeah. I think I am more forgiving of like the visual issues.
Right.
But yeah, when it's meant to run smoothly, I notice when it's like dropping from 30 to 10 frames per second.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
got like
it's-
when I'm not really. It's funny because like in it I'm like I'm just swept up in it. I'm having such a fun time. But then I saw a thread. Someone posted a thing of someone had taken some like through an emulator, taken Breath of the Wild, and put that into like. Here's some screenshots of it in 4K, and I was like, "Yeah, damn, that would be nice." Actually seeing the equivalent of what it could be. It's like I'm not like when I'm playing it, I'm not really. I'm swept up in it. I'm not thinking, "Oh, I wish this looked better." But then when you see that comparison, it's like, I guess I do wish that we lived in that world.
It's the same fora we've been having a chuck on the end of every Nintendo game since
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Wii,
yeah.
where it's like it looks good for a Wii game. It looks like good for a Wii U game.
Yeah.
And it looks good for a Switch game. It looks the same as Breath of the Wild, basically,
Yeah.
but with
I think
a
maybe
bit more going on.
I think it looks slightly worse in some ways, but I think it has to for performance.
They've had to
Yeah.
bump down some of the resolution.
Yeah.
a
Well,
bit.
they've added
Yeah.
that like FSR thing, which like internally it's rendering at a lower resolution and pumps it up, like the
Right.
DLSS is the NVIDIA one.
Right.
So you'll notice that as well if you like move the camera and then stop, it'll like snap into the higher resolution and it looks a little funky. But
Oh yeah.
it's not been affecting my enjoyment of the gameplay, but it is definitely there and something to
Yeah.
mention.
I think also in the
Yeah.
back of my mind is like, I mean, we'll be playing a souped up version of this in like 5 years anyway.
I hope that is fucking
I hope
like-
so.
Just to quickly go back to the thing of more of the same and sort of not caring versus it being an issue, because that is exactly what God of War Ragnarok was for me. I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
this looks great. It's doing all the same stuff again, but it just wasn't hitting for. That was one where I was like, I'm bored by the fact that this is more of the same.
Right.
It's just not delivering in the same way. So
I
I
think-
totally
yeah.
can get that comparison of like, if if it doesn't bother you, then you have the best time all over again. But if you just can't get past that, then
It's
so
where
I
you're
totally,
up to with it, because like I wanted more after finishing Breath of the Wild completely twice.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah.
And now I'm getting more. So I'm not sick of it yet. But if you put 50 pies in front of different people, they're going to eat a different amount of pies. And I'm up to 43 and I'm going fine.
I
Put the oven back on.
As a sequel, I think I like it way more than Ragnarok. which like other people liked Ragnarok heaps more than we did.
Totally.
All
And
three of
also,
us, yeah.
at the end of the day, it's funny because it's like, as a complaint, more of the same. It's like, well, like we were saying, it was known as just Breath of the Wild 2 for, that's all. And it's the same with God of War 2. Like, it's like, that by buying this, you're not getting the revolutionary.
Right. It's the same console. It's
complete.
They're not going to be allowed, due to the constraints of the hardware, to revolution. Like, this was Breath of the Wild changed open world games.
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom is an open world game in the wake of Breath of the Wild.
It's funny that there's a lot of comparisons you can make with this game and Elden Ring, because Elden Ring was like, ooh, Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
Yes. And like
that's almost maybe why this is hitting less hard for me, is because I think Elden Ring is just the same, but a bit more to my taste.
Well, and it's
very similar.
It is what you're saying, where like, this Breath of the Wild came along and everyone was like, oh shit, that's a cool way of doing this. Mm-hmm. Things changed a bit.
Yeah.
Nothing quite matched what Breath of the Wild did for me, other than maybe Elden Ring, but even that, like, maybe not quite in the same way.
Right.
But still very much so. But anyway, this is like Godfather Part 2 or whatever, where it's like, well, the thing is continuing and it's still very good, but I totally get the thing of being like, but I preferred the first. Or
the first one will always be the most, it feel the most innovative and fresh, and
But for me, as these as a pair, it is like Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, or like, I'm trying to think of other of those 1-2 punches, those old Chicago shuffles that have come out in the past, because this is maybe the best boom boom.
Because I also think too, what is so interesting about this, that will be interesting to kind of see how people feel about this over time, is that what was so interesting to me in the lead up was, you're saying, Breath of the Wild kind of revolutionized the open world game, and this is in the wake of that. But I think they still have kind of tried to revolutionize it again, because
they've changed the focus so much with what it's doing. Sorry.
Well, there just hasn't been an example where it's like...
So you're going to say they changed the font.
Here's the same map again, and we've made that interesting. I don't think that's really... Like, setting that as the challenge to yourself of how do we get people back into the same world and still capture as much of that same feeling as we can.
I just think
that's such an interesting challenge to set for yourself.
Again, Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, they had a whole other game's worth of ideas that they've gotten to put into this. So like, Breath of the Wild is twice as long as it seemed, and this is the other half. And it's sick.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. Like, I probably will have a hard time overselling how much I just want video games to be like this.
Right.
And that being said, like, the story's not great, and it doesn't have some of those like type of things that hook me in massively with other games, but just in terms of how well this is going, here's my idea, here's the way I'm presenting it to you, and that's why you will be interested in it. It's perfect in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, and this to me is like, it's just reminding me of like the experience of sitting down and playing Breath of the Wild for 2 hours. It just is all the same stuff that is just such a unique feeling that I haven't really gotten out of other games. Like, nothing's quite scratched that same itch of, the joy of getting lost. Do we want to go, because we kind of flagged that we were going to, and then we kind of haven't.
Yeah,
do we want to go
a little bit. Well,
some like vague, specific kind of stuff?
There's more stuff
vague
with
specifics.
Vague specifics.
The story's worth mentioning a bit more about, because it's like, it's really well done as a continuation of where the first one ended up.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the first one at all, so I just assumed that it made sense.
You're right. It finds a reason for you to have another Zelda's gotta be found thing going on, but it's the same stuff as the first, where it's like having the past and the present interact,
right? Yeah,
in a way that is cool. You're like,
I think that specifically they've gone. That was a good idea we had for Breath of the Wild, but we did not execute it as well as it should have been done. I think it's done way better in Tears of the Kingdom.
Also, I mean, the benefit is they they still had to think of interesting new things to do in it, but they have the map this time. They don't have to have all that time of like designing all the landmass and the engine from scratch.
And they've already got some of those like characters and stuff to sort of reuse and have them. So I really like the thing. There's another new, I guess, power or mechanic or whatever, where whenever you beat a dungeon, the pal who is helping you out for that dungeon, you get their power afterwards. It's weird that you have to turn that on and off in the menu, rather than the fact that when you're going into your powers wheel and there's an Amiibo symbol, but not just a way of doing this in there.
Right.
I find that really weird.
How did you? Because you kind of got a similar-ish thing in Breath of the Wild, like you'd beat a.
Yeah,
you just held a button down. So if you held down jump, you get Rivali's Gale and shot you up in the air.
Right.
And so
this is a little more cumbersome, where you turn on your little stone and the guy follows you around.
A little fucked up looking ghost version.
Right. And then you've got to talk to them to activate it. And it's like a bit clumsy.
Because you can have multiple, so you can have them both standing next to you and you're pressing A and you're doing a gust of wind when you want something else.
It's not done as well as it should be, that bit, but
when you've already got a little powers wheel, it's crazy that it's not just on
when you've got like map in there as well, where like I'm never going to the map,
but the
through
powers
there.
are like you say, they are very cool, they're very handy. I guess I already said it, but like one of the powers you get, potentially the game guides you in that direction.
A lot of people are going like, hey, the Rito village, there's something up there, like it really tells you.
And it's easier than the others.
It's also a pretty cool one to see first.
Yeah.
There's a newspaper there.
It's real cold.
Oh, by the way, just quickly, let's say like the towers this time around, you're not scaling up them. You're going in. I love these. They're lit up like a fucking casino. So just standing on a hill at night when it's raining and just being able to see the beams going up. And they've basically put Link to work as like one of those little dorks that you see on a bike with the Google Map helmet. And so they like shoot him up and he's got his little phone and he's like scanning the area
and
to
I guess they're like,
give them the data.
We lost your old computer and all those maps are gone or whatever.
Although we kept your horses.
I love that. The fact that your horses, the first time you go to a stable, they're like, oh, you've already got an account with us and here's the horses that you named Gonka, Zonka, Donk. And that was nice.
But the sky view, what are they called? That's the Tokyo
Skyview Towers, which, I loved scaling them because I said I can't remember who I said this to the other day, but I have not been putting as much of a focus on building up my stamina wheel.
Right.
Because that was the thing I was like most keen to max out in Breath of the Wild because I wanted to glide for longer. Climbing was just a pain in the ass because you had to do so much of it without much stamina. And then this, between the ascend ability and the not needing to climb up those towers to activate them, I've just been, I haven't been needing to, which again is like, I did that in Breath of the Wild. I was like, the stamina was the big challenge and it's a bit more of a backseat here. But I love that, like still seeing them off in the distance and hunting them out, but not having to then worry about the traversal up them. They've just done away with that. You get this cool little cutscene.
There's a little puzzle at the bottom of most of them or whatever. Someone's like, oh, the door's fucked for some reason.
And I love that they seem to have, as far as I've seen in my time playing the game so far, they seem to have killed all the Guardians and just be using their little arms to strap you into the Skyview Tower. I love the first time, the little cutscene, the first time you go into one of them where they come out and, Link's just been in a coma this whole time. He's like, the fuck? And they're like, no, it's fine.
Maybe you guys should have just actually broken all that shit and thrown it away because I don't know if we need to repurpose the real dangerous shit that was after us. Those are real fun, and getting shot up into the sky looks great.
Yes.
The depths are fun. That's the other area that we're talking about in this bit.
Yep.
It's really it's like it's more barren. Than above ground. There's less to find and less to do.
But they get around that by turning the lights off.
And it's a cool little explory thing.
It's
and you get the chance to use your ability to now just throw items from the menu. I will say I'm also struggling with the menu a little bit because you've got all of your items just in a line. And you can sort them by a couple of categories, but it's not that useful. And sometimes you'll be looking around for a bit. And I'm also, this is me, but the button for opening your wheel has changed from up to like L. And I'm opening the item menu with up, looking at it for a few seconds going, wait, what am I looking for? Oh, right. And then remember.
Right.
Doesn't matter. But I got that muscle memory from Breath of the Wild.
It's been long enough since I played that's gone from my head. But that is because that you need to be able to get into the items more quickly in this one because you actually, that's the other thing too. So like.
But just so quickly, the depths are like a cool new way of doing an exploration challenge on top of or below the main field.
And that sort of again, if you don't want to know anything about any of these mechanics that are revealed very early on, there's
sort of been in the trailers and stuff.
Yeah, the gloomy stuff.
Yeah,
and when you're in the depths and you get hurt, but all the enemies are gloomy enemies down there. You get permanent damage while you're down there.
Yeah, and if you go to one of those bulb
routes,
it'll reset you.
Yes.
They delete hearts from you.
Yeah,
and so sort of tied into that. A big, one of the main issues, or really only issues that people have with Breath of the Wild, the lack of enemy diversity. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more in here so far, just in what I've seen, because they're, they've got all these different ecosystems to play with, which, and again, it is people just wanted a bit more variety in the stuff they were seeing and doing in terms of fighting enemies in Breath of the Wild, but, in here, they've not only just gone, oh yeah, here's a bunch of new enemies, but there's a practicality to them because you wipe them out and you get different bits that are all have an application to your arrows or to your weapons. So it's not just you wanted more enemies. Well, here they are. Here's a fucking frog thing. It's
because you used to be able to use them for cooking stuff, or you'd hand them over to the person.
Elixirs and
stuff.
But I never did any of that.
No,
I had so many things in my inventory in Breath of the Wild that I just was never going near. But here, you find a new enemy and you wipe it out, and it's it's got a different kind of horn, or it's got a different kind of thing that's
some icy
I'll put this on an arrow, or I'll fuse this to a shield.
Really using that shit. It's great. The fuse stuff, especially for arrows, and you get way more arrows this time. It feels like it's great.
I keep running out of arrows. I keep running out of weapons.
Yeah, right.
I think Breath of the Wild, I was this weapon durability stuff is an issue at all. And now I'm I've run out of weapons for fighting a boss.
You got to fuse some shit to those weapons.
Does that make them more durable?
Yeah.
Makes them stronger, makes them more durable, it makes them more powerful, everything about it.
Right.
You got to get fusing.
You put a rock on a stick, it's
it
double
rocks.
double the durability of a
sword.
Because part of the plot thing is all your metal weapons are decayed, so they've the people who hated durability, they fucked them off even more.
Yeah.
But
now I am one of those people.
Get your head around the fuse stuff and it becomes similar to how I thought Breath of the Wild was, where it's this is a cool way of getting me to have a bit of variety in what I'm using. And now it's done the same thing, but I've got a variety in what I'm attaching to them and experimenting with that. Get into fusing. Because you'll love it.
Strength of the weapons is whatever. You can beat a boss or a mini boss. There's a few of those as well, just, with enough time. But yeah, I found kind of with a Resident Evil 4, I'll just run out of ammo and now I can't beat the boss.
If you're making those weapons more powerful by fusing them, fewer hits to destroy the boss, weapon lasts longer. I cannot say enough good things about fusing.
I'm doing arrows as much as I can, which I wasn't really much of an arrow person in Breath of the Wild. I was kind of for the Guardians, you sort of had to do it, but in this, it's all I'm doing, because you chuck an eyeball on the end there, then you got a homing thing, chucking a bomb flower on the end,
putting the wings on there to make it shoot straight, and then just going for headshot after headshot.
Yep.
I'm Call of Duty.
I wish I had if you had one shitty bow and one shitty sword that was permanent. Just have a bit running out of weapons when it's I've been fighting this guy for 15 minutes. I get the frustration that people had with Breath of the Wild.
Right. No, I got the opposite.
You
where
will
I'm
lose that feeling once you're fusing.
Yeah, I'm constantly I'm every weapon I've come across, I don't have room in my inventory. I've got permanently stocked inventory of melee at the moment.
I do usually, but it's just bosses. It's literally just bosses. I tend to kind of avoid combat usually. But
sure.
Yeah, it's the boss thing where it's I just did this whole temple where I just solved a bunch of puzzles and it was great, and now I'm stuck at this bit where it's now I've got to warp back fucking home and buy some arrows and find it just interrupts the flow a little bit.
Listen, again, not to sound like a broken record, but I suggest to you the same thing that you get if a group of people feel relief. Fuse.
Oh.
What happens if it doesn't help?
Then I'll be surprised. My eyebrows will fuse to the top of my head.
I think they've thought of this exact conundrum, and that's where the system was born from.
Well, that's where the decay stuff, is coming from to encourage you to do it. But
Your
some
new
people
little
You can't encourage him.
No.
Your new little mentor guy who comes in at the beginning in the tutorial area.
Oh, yeah.
Roru.
That guy.
I'm loving him.
Yeah.
Great design. Cool
Tommy's
new
not been
guy.
playing it with the English, so he cannot pronounce any of the
true.
names.
Yeah, exactly. And that tutorial area, the Sky Island, I just immediately I was like, visually, the way it guides you around, the way it like threads through these little things of like it, each of the, it's similar to the Great Plateau. Each of the shrines you're doing there kind of gives you one of the main abilities, and then it's like, oh, here's a little rail that's going up. Here's a busted minecart on its side.
Yeah.
And here's a rocket. You figure it out, genius.
This looks a bit like a hook. Wonder what you could do with that. And I love that thing of like
there you
all
go,
the
Donkey
shits.
Kong. Get in your little minecart.
Everything's there, but then still when you put it together, you're like, I did this.
I am the smartest man alive. Yeah. I loved that opening area. If that had have been, that could just be like an indie game on its own. Just that I just loved that first little tutorial.
I found that's where I've done most of that stuff. Like since then, I've just been like running around and climbing things, apart from the shrines, obviously.
Yep.
There is one bit where I won't spoil it. I'll wait for a couple of weeks.
Right.
But there's some cool stuff where you're like, wait a minute, I'm just doing this to get around, and now this emerging gameplay thing has happened around it.
Yeah.
Wow, this is sick.
There's a ton of stuff like that too, where like everything that seems like, I mean, in a lot of games it would be just like, here's a cool thing that you use here, but like it's got wider applications to a bunch of different situations that either the game will put you in, or you'll be putting yourself in, or will be a B path to the thing that the game is getting you to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of you're still just finding the Koroks like under rocks and stuff like that, but a lot of them are there'll be a little chubby one just hanging out, and he's like, oh, my friend's over there.
He's got a backpack.
Too tired.
Yeah,
to
he's
walk.
skinny. He's got a backpack on.
Oh, I think he's.
What's in that backpack? Bunch of fucking
His ass.
chocolate bars.
But yeah, he'll be like, no, my friend's over there and I can't get to him. And it's like...
It's so funny, the friend as well, just being like, yeah, well, I'll go set up camp over there
Yeah.
and
I'll put
I'll
the
wait for
smoke
you.
signal up so you can see
Yeah.
where I am. That's me done.
How did I get over
someone
here?
Yeah. Someone will show up with a fucking balloon or whatever. You'll be fine.
And you can, we were talking about this before, Adam, you can just pick him up and
Yeah.
walk him over, but there'll often be stuff lying around where you're like, yeah, I strapped a rocket to one and I thought, this will go off course or whatever. And it worked. And I was like, that felt great.
It's so cool when you have something where you're like, this is harebrained. And then when that brain on your hair has had a good idea.
Yeah.
Good feeling.
It's
Yeah.
harebrained in the way of Bugs Bunny, outsmarting Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
Maybe it's such a small thing, but I think this is my favorite new thing that is dotted around the world. And again, this is something that you see. This is one of the first things that you see after you skydive out of the tutorial.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you open in this bit, and it's like you walk over to this ledge and the game just goes, just jump off, which was very funny to me. That's like, as if your first instinct would be, all right,
Yeah.
off I go.
It's funny because you can jump off other ledges and you die in midair.
In that tutorial
Sure.
bit, it's like it wants you to stay up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you first get down onto the ground, the Hudson's construction guy, he's got a little helper who's like going around putting up signs about him, and they're all like, you find him around the world, he'll be holding the sign up, and there'll be like a bunch of wood and stuff near him, and you need to use your Ultra Hand ability to make a little kind of keep the sign up. And I think that is my favorite thing in the game.
Dude, that guy gets around too.
Yeah.
He is all over the shop, but every time he has just a slightly different shape on the back of his stupid sign.
Yes.
And you go,
Yes.
okay, what'll I get up to this time?
And he's building it
lot
on
of
a
time-
slant when it's like it's flat right next to you. Put the sign there.
A lot of the time you can do the exact same thing to keep it up, but
Yeah, right.
sometimes you're right. It's like it'll be weighted a bit one way or whatever.
Just little tiny variations, or maybe the equipment that you've got is slightly different or whatever.
Yeah.
But
And yeah, I just that is my favorite new thing in this. I'm just loving riding around, seeing him. I just do my little mini thing. And yeah, similar to the shrines where it's like you get it done, you feel like you did it in a right way, but like I bet there were 6 other ways of doing this.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing that I've been reading this week, kind of ducking into some little chats and just seeing someone go, hey, did anyone else solve this bit doing this? And I'm like, damn, that never would have occurred to me.
Yeah.
It's also really cool that it's not solving things in multiple ways in the way of like a Deus Ex game or something where it's like there is the vent and there is the front door and there is the whatever. It really is creative in an unusual way. That's somewhere between a game like that and just open, creative, build your own Minecraft shit.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
The thing I want to shout out that I think is hands down the most improved thing from the first game is the music.
Yes.
There's more of it. What was in Breath of the Wild was good.
And a lot of that's back.
A lot of it's back.
Exact same
but
form.
It was very kind of like elegant and sparse and out of the way.
And it fit that game really well. But
Yes. And it feels like this time the composer's gone, you know what? I love techno. I'm going to start to bring some of that into what I'm doing here.
I'd have really loved, because there are a fair few reused tracks, chucking a bit of that like new saxophone line over the top of a few of them or something to give it
a lot
like
of the like piano, like
while you're riding your horse and in some of the towns and whatever. It's not like annoying me, but it is like, oh, you maybe could have chucked a bit of flavor onto this one over the top of what you had from the first one.
The kind of the snow stuff is pretty much the same, but the shrine music I think is all new and it's great. It's so like weird and kind of like this bizarre sort of like ambient, almost like the Muji soundtracks that are out there. And again, that music that's in that opening Sky Island is just great. So morose and weird.
Do you know what's weird with the voice acting again is like all of the talking and stuff, whatever, it's like a cartoon, but then every second normal character you'll talk to, they'll just do little grunts and noises.
Yes.
Half of them sound like the horniest people.
I know.
So many of them like, I'm coming, Link. Like that one's
I love the and the there's a real Yoda like
It is funny because it's like one of, when that's not happening and you're just walking around, it's one of the few games that someone can be in the room and you're like, this doesn't sound embarrassing to be playing. You know, it's just like classy piano music playing, you know, the sound of like some galloping.
Yeah.
And like, I'm thinking like, you know, I'm used to hearing my girlfriend play the Harry Potter game. It's all British people going on. And it's like, you know, her overhearing that, I'm like, I sound like I sound like a cool classy guy, and then it's like, oh.
And then if she looks it up on Twitter, she's going to be like, this is a porn game. This is all just drawings of fucking.
That is the other thing that's been very funny this week, seeing is that like a game that was shrouded in mystery for basically the entire 6 years that it was in development, and the day before it's like, I really did have a pretty surreal moment booting this up for the first time of like, this feels bizarre to actually be sitting here playing this.
I kind of know what
like,
you mean.
It just feels like it had become one of those things that was like not being talked about for a long time, and then it was obvious that it was going to be delayed, and it just had gone onto the pile of like, this feels like something that will just never arrive.
On it, like Final Fantasy VII Remake was a bit like that too, where it's like, fuck, this thing has been talked about in some form or another since like the PS3 launched.
Right.
Like,
and then it's finally here. It finally comes out, and within 24 hours, Twitter is flooded with people making robots with big cocks shooting fire out of them. It's like, it truly doesn't take long.
I feel like that turnaround, maybe because this one is specifically encouraging that creativity, because look, we saw a lot of that stuff with Breath of the Wild, but it was a bit more slapdash, whereas this, I guess, it's like, we want you to build robots with giant flaming dicks.
And that's another thing.
I wonder what the relationship is between how much of a focus that is of this game versus like, if you were developing Breath of the Wild and you saw all the shit people could do with it on YouTube, you might go, damn, that is cool, actually.
They've said, that's one of the things they've said this week, is that was the inspiration, was seeing how much people were fucking around with it.
Okay.
They were like, well, hey, let's formalize that.
Right.
Let's give them the tools.
Good thing your lawyers didn't get all those videos fucking taken down in the way that they would have wanted their Nintendo, or you would have had no fucking ideas.
Yeah. I found a couple of things. I think, it's just like some of our patrons are not finding Ultra Hand so intuitive, where that annoying thing, we've mentioned it with other games, where you're doing the right thing, but it's not happening in the right way mechanically because of a limitation of the game. To like, I'm like, I'm trying to solve this puzzle, and so I've assumed you have to like build this thing using these parts, and it'll go to the thing and it'll be done. And so I do that, and then I'll put it into action, and it won't work. And so it'll be like, I guess I've done this the wrong way, and just try a bunch of different ways before going back to the first one and being like, oh, it works now. Which is a bit frustrating.
It does have when you're like attaching things together. It'll like when you
there's little snapping points.
It'll show up a little bit of goo, but you sometimes can. I've had that happen a couple of times, especially with putting up planks for the signs, where you're like you think it's attached on one side, but it's actually because of the angle.
The best way to do it is always be on like a 90-degree angle with Link. And then so do everything flat rather than trying to do it from like a 45-degree angle to the object. And like I've had the opposite thing most of the time where like I've had some weird idea and it's worked. I've been like, fuck, that's cool that it panned out. So I guess it's just, like, I don't know why that is. Just how much it clicks in with you.
Yeah.
How much that goo sicks itself like a dog. I meant to say six. There wasn't meant to be a T in the word.
Some people can say sticks, and some
exactly.
It's just a. But
it's just person to person.
I think Ben might have the Tim the Toolman Taylor version of this game. Where he's the alien race. They're known as the Binfords in this game.
I need an Al Borland to fix it up for me. But I will say, I assume
Wilson just peering over the fence. Whoa!
Yeah, you were saying to me before as well, because I haven't heard the voice clip that goes, ooh,
right?
And you were saying that there is one.
Yeah, there is.
All right.
I am really enjoying the main quests. Like, all of that stuff. The dungeons, they're not really dungeons, and they're not divine beasts. There's something in between.
Yeah, they're like big shrines.
Yeah.
But more interesting than the divine beasts were to me, and definitely the bosses are better.
The lead up to, I've only done one of them, but the kind of the whole run up towards that. I just loved. I don't remember any of the Divine Beasts having anything like none of that stuff really sticks in my head for the first one, but I feel like already there's moments in the main quest from this that are like, oh, this is some of the best stuff I've seen in the game. The boss is like, I loved it. I thought it was so fun and creative.
They had a similar thing where you do a bit of in-world, get ready. Let's
you go to the
but it's just better in this one, I think.
And like it's because it's like with that first one, it's a lot of traversal and platforming, which is like utilizing the powers, or I think in the introduction of like gravity-based problem solving or physics-based, but gravity, I guess specifically, is. If it was in Breath of the Wild, it wasn't done this well, that's for sure. I really like that. And then, I think there were a few things with like some of the Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild where it was like physically getting to it was part of the challenge.
Yeah.
But it's just done better in this. And for the two that I've done, it's
totally.
It's way better.
I think, the fact that this stuff was all kind of in Breath of the Wild. So like there were shrines or whatever where it's like, figure out what to do with this ramp and stuff. But it's just... exactly what you way better in this. Like just those ideas are cranked right up and they're all fucking hitting for me.
And I've never really got into or played any of the other Zelda games,
right?
Except for Link's Awakening.
The Game Boy remake one.
Which I played after Breath of the Wild, and so I do enjoy how these sort of like temple-y, dungeon-y things are a bit closer to that kind of puzzle solving.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people, even this version of that isn't going far enough for them.
Right.
Which, personally, I mean, there's a bunch of them out there that you can, go in on. I'm still glad that they're mixing it up a bit, and they have said that this is the template going forward for a Zelda game, but I do think... it's entirely possible that they would commission kind of like smaller ones that they make that are maybe even just like top down in that style. Like I could see them just going back to that as like a spin-off-y kind of thing.
Right.
It's weird because I really liked those and wanted more similar dungeons to the old ones in this. I'm not disappointed by what's in here, but it is still one of those things where like, well, it doesn't have this thing that I miss.
Yeah.
But the stuff that's in here is good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just not that. But
and like I read a thing that was a review that was saying They loved all the freedom. They loved all the everything that we've said as a positive.
I love freedom too. Let me tell you.
Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose.
Oh, damn, dude.
Yeah.
Shit.
I didn't know the fucking... Why didn't you wear your Joker costume today as well?
Tommy's wearing it.
This reviewer was loving all the positives that we've touched on in terms of like the open world, but they were like, anytime you get on a path, I'm off it. They were like hating the progression to the dungeons, and anytime you like get on rails, which I think it's done well, and I also think you have to have that in there. Otherwise, brother, you're playing Minecraft.
I do think
you've got to have what makes the getting off the beaten track fun is the fact that you're doing, you're going, I'm avoiding the main quest and I'm doing all this stuff.
I do. That main stuff it does feel to me slightly more normal video game to me. It's a little bit more laid out of like one person tells you go here and here and here, but you're not doing the exploration of the world in the same way. So I think it's kind of cool that it's like a bit more directed.
Tell you what, I like normal video games.
Me too.
So
honestly,
it's what I expect. There's a story, there's a quest, there's a sub quest. I'm hitting them all. I'm getting new armor. I'm getting new abilities. That's video games.
And also, the game's fucking massive again, too.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's just there's so fucking much stuff to do.
I feel like there's more, and part of that discovery thing, it feels like there's a lot more in the world to come across. Like there's a lot more little people. There's a lot more little side things that you're discovering that I'm finding a lot more compelling this time. I think nearly everyone I came across in Breath of the Wild being like, oh God, I'd love an apple. I was just like, oh well, too bad. It sucks to be you.
They're fucking everywhere, dude. Go out and find one.
But there's just like way more interesting ones in these that like pretty much all of them that I've come across, I'm like, all right, dude, I'm going to go, oh, you said you've seen a guy over here doing this. Well, I'm going to go look for that. Like there just is something about
it feels denser too, right?
Yeah.
There's not as many of and in Breath of the Wild, it was those big open spaces that you'd just explore through were cool because it was the first time you were doing it.
Sure. Oh, there's some enemies that built their own camp. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's just more and more and more and more of those points of interest in this game compared to the first one. It's a fucking good game.
There are still a few people where I'll go up and they'll be like, God, I really wish I knew what was going up in the throne room, and you can be like, I have to go, and I'm just like, I have to. I don't care. I'm sorry, I don't care.
There are still one or two people who
you might find out.
I wonder if I could ever eat one of those stamina fish.
Yeah.
Like, well, you could.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be a part of it.
Yeah,
No,
I will when I do the rest of it and I'm being completionist and come back here. But
I don't have one right now. I'll probably get one on the other side of the map and then have forgotten that you're here.
Yeah.
I do like when you find someone that's giving you a quest that you've sort of inadvertently already done.
Oh, yes.
So they give you the whole spiel.
Right.
Oh, God, it'd be so great if someone could do this.
Yeah.
Next minute, you've done it?
You've got
just
3 talking about that.
Link doesn't stop them at any point. Like, hey, before you get into it, I just came from there.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? There was one other little thing. Oh, yeah, this is so nothing. But because they bring your horses in from the first game, I thought that was so cool. And I wish there was a bit more of, because you're meeting some of the same people again. Some of them recognize you, some of them don't.
Yeah.
And I did all of the quests in that first game, and there was just when I got to Hateno Village, and the little kid who I fucking spent hours showing him every sword in the world.
Oh, yes.
Every fucking sword that little kid's heart desired, I brought to him. And he was like, hey, buddy. But as in... No, buddy is too personal. I mean, he was like,
hey,
what's
stranger.
up,
hello,
fucking random dude.
Yeah.
And I genuinely felt angry at that kid.
Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, if tech was more advanced, there's a version of this game where it's like not just bringing over the horses from the save data, but it's like it knows everything you've done. So you've
got a tick on every quest if you've done it.
Yeah.
And it'd just be nice to have one little bit at the start because they've clearly accessed that save file for them to go like, you're the sword dude. Thanks for all your help. Here's my new thing I'm up to.
But a version of that where it's like it threads literally everything in. So it's like, the the number of hearts in that opening bit is like the exact number that you had.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you never made it to a certain bit of the map and you go to it in this one, people are like, oh, this guy. But yeah, it knows if you did go in, it's like,
it's
the great man from a year ago.
It's silly to ask for an above and beyond thing like that, but they accessed the save file at some point, and it's a Mass Effect thing that did it.
And it's a pretty direct sequel, so it does make sense.
Would have been a nice little touch of sugar on top of the...
But I mean, that's being a kid, right? I just kind of love that he's like had 5 years in between. He's like, when your parents are like, yeah, remember that friend of ours that was around all the time when you were a kid? You're like, no.
Yeah, it's like, you haven't...
Uncle Link?
You haven't fucking grown that much, kid, either. I don't know how long it's been. I'm having a hard time figuring out.
Because Link's hair is pretty long.
It's gotten long, and he passed out for a little bit, but...
I can't even remember. So there's like characters in each of the kingdoms that are like, hey, we're working together again. I'm like, I don't remember what you looked like, but...
you're this little kid to me, to all those characters. You're showed up being like, I know you're a Goron.
G'day, Buster. What's up, Tiger?
Champion.
I wonder if this is just like, real world. Often sequels will do that. It's like, it's the same amount of time, or whether it's like Succession style, where it's like, this is all Breath of the Wild and this happened in the course of a month.
Right.
I'd be interested.
6 years. Exactly.
I don't think I saw any of our patrons have this perspective on it, but I'd be really interested to know what someone who is playing this without having played Breath of the Wild would think of it too.
I wonder if there's anyone like that in the world.
It'd be kind of strange because like that was the other thing I was going to say before as well, just with like this, the Switch has a bunch of people who've like bought a Switch as their first console and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Nintendo have done what like this is a little bit of the more of the same thing just on that. But remember that Nintendo's fucking track record with some of that stuff is like their sequel to Mario Kart 8 was Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
And has been for years. Like they've done a lot in this.
And that also got a 10 out of 10.
I know. People are, including me, are often a bit like, there's just something when Nintendo does it, I'm like, you crazy kids.
Yeah.
You put out that Game Boy game again.
They do it well, though, is the thing. It's
they really do.
If you took away maybe the expectation that it should be something brand new or innovative or something, whatever. If you play it in a vacuum, it's a 10 out of 10 game. It's so polished. It's so thoughtful. It's fun. There's exploration, unlike most other games that have ever been made. Like if you take it in a vacuum, which I guess is what critics have to do, they try and divorce the hype and expectation.
Yeah, you need a bit of both, right? Where then you also want it to exist in the context of, well, if you're engaged with everything, what is this as a piece of the canon? And it's such a weird one because it is like some of the criticisms, but then I guess just Assassin's Creed doesn't do it as well because there's a joy to everything you're doing in this that it's made with, that it feels like people were going, oh yeah, what if we did this when they were coming up with them? It's obviously fucking hard work to do it, but when you go to each of those, little points in an Assassin's Creed game, for example, you meet someone and they're like, I got a dreary fucking fishing job for you. I'm just watching the clock today while I'm designing this mission. You don't get that feeling from this.
Yeah, there's less personality and less character.
Yeah.
Your charm and because there's like a little side thing in this where you're running into a lady who's got like a wheelbarrow full of little, what are they called? The little sand. She's got little soft toys of the little kind of sand.
Oh, the Moldugas?
The little seal things, the sand seals.
Oh, the sand seals, right? I haven't seen her. That's cute.
She's got little plushes, and you come up to her, and she's always kind of facing away from you, and you talk to her, and she's kind of talking to herself, and then she sees you there, and she like knocks the wheelbarrow. And the little toys go flying everywhere. And she's like, you dickhead, can you put 10 of these back in my wheelbarrow in the next 2 minutes? And you're like,
oh, hell yeah.
All right. And so it's like you're, and she's always in kind of a different terrain where,
great.
you using your ultra hand, and I had one where a lot of them were in the water, so I had to then very quickly make a little raft to get out there and get them using some logs nearby and stuff like that. And essentially it's just like, hey, here's some stuff that's scattered around.
Yeah.
Go pick it up.
That's cool.
But the fact that it's like, I've made, the little things that you ride in the first game. I've made little soft toys of them and I'm selling them.
Little just thoughtful bits. Like everyone who's kind of standing next to a chasm, if you go up and talk to them, they'll be like, fucking don't sneak up on me. I'm standing next to a huge cliff. What's wrong with you?
I was skydiving off from one of the Sky Islands. and like directly below me was a chasm, and I don't think I'd been in one yet, and I'm like, oh well, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna skydive straight in here. And then it was like pretty deep, and like halfway down it came up with that warning of like, yeah, the air's pretty hot in here, might be quite bad for you with your current armor, and then just like burst into flames before I could reach the bottom. I was like, this game rules.
Stuff like that is sick. We haven't even talked about that rewind ability, which I also think is really cool. Like the fact that the game is keeping track of the location of every object for the last 20 seconds on top of everything else. Like that's the thing with the technical stuff where it's like at the like the draw distance in one way is crazy, and everything just physically interacts. Like it's really technically impressive in some ways. And then
it's a cool way of constructing a way of you being able to just easily get up into the sky at any point if you want, because you're constantly walking around and off in the distance seeing a little block kind of fall down, and it's like, all right, I'll run over there, rewind it, and then I can go up into the sky and get a bit of a look. Like
chucking rocks back at enemies who've thrown them at you. Like I'll go and wait for someone to pick up an explosive barrel and be like, you've walked into my trap. Real Yu-Gi-Oh shit.
I will say I was in a shrine, and there was at a certain point it's like the puzzle being like, now the wheel's going this way, and that's no good, is it? It's like, fuck off. This isn't clever. I know by this point that I have to use the rewind.
Anyway, good game. We'll talk about it more because I'm going to play more in the next week, I reckon.
I'm interested to see what as people spend more time with it, what the longer term conversation about this is. But overall, I'm just having the best time.
I'm loving it.
I can't put it down.
Yeah,
it's all I've been doing, honestly.
There's just heaps to do, and it's all fun.
Yeah,
it's all creative and different from each other as the little tasks that you've got.
How far in are you, Nox?
Pretty far. I've done like 2 of the temples. I'm on my 3rd as we speak. It's all I've been thinking about this whole time. Probably played, I don't know, somewhere between 20 and 30 hours or something of it.
Yeah,
it's annoying that it doesn't have a... I know. It's really a game that lends
Switch
itself
does,
to...
and it's
but
like
it's still
menu.
vague. It's
mine says you started playing 3 days ago still.
For some reason, you have to wait a week or 10 days or something before it'll start giving you hours.
It takes a week, and then it's only in like blocks of 5 or something, right?
It's real
something
stupid.
Crazy like that.
But I'm like...
Played for a little while.
Yeah. I know that I've played Fire Emblem Engage for 20 hours.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm doing a lot more of the sort of straight and narrow main path stuff though.
Yeah.
And like kind of just placing in my head like I'll come back here when I got more time to fully get the village's problems all sorted out.
I've done a temple, and then I've just now decided I'm in bullshit mode for a little bit.
Nice.
I think I'm maybe going to take a week before I... Although, maybe I'll just come across it and then be like, oh, well, now's the time. Yeah. I'm just kind of... I think similar to the first one, I just love knocking those towers off. So I'm just kind of going around trying to get the map all filled in.
It's sick. It's such a good game. If you're not in by now, then you won't be.
But again, like the more of the same thing.
Everybody's different.
I chucked on Breath of the Wild a couple of months ago. I thought, I'll dick around in here for a little bit, get myself back in the swing. Mm-hmm. And I just bounced off it pretty, you know what I mean? So like even just like a replay of that wasn't really hitting for me. But this is.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have more to say about it next week when we keep playing it. I want to play Humanity as well. That's out now. And annoying, I'm moving and I've packed up the PSVR headset.
Oh, no.
Which I really wanted to crack out for Humanity, but it ain't coming out. So I don't know. I'll figure myself out with that. But
the first thing that's come out.
Yeah.
My God.
And Diablo 4. I don't know when we're able to talk about that.
I think, we'll look up what our embargo stuff is, but we'll be talking about Diablo 4.
At some point, yeah.
If we're even allowed to say that we know about the existence of a game that they've heavily promoted.
Yeah.
And, more stuff after that.
Yeah.
Well, patreon.com/filthycasualspod. You can get our bonus show that we do every week.
Yeah, both the audio and video of our bonus show.
Yeah.
And get onto the YouTube channel if you would like to see the video of this episode or us playing through all sorts of games. Yeah. There's hundreds of videos on there. We've got long plays. We've got one-off things.
Download the podcast, listen to it, then go watch the video 10 times.
Yeah.
Buy a bot to go watch it 100 more times, but not a detectable one.
No. If you've listened to this point, definitely go and look at a bit of the video to see
So you reckon?
Great man.
And we'll be impressed. Oh yeah.
Here's a weird rumor I heard.
Yes.
If you hit play on the YouTube of this episode at the same time as on the podcast app, they sync up.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I think everyone should try that.
You know, if you watch the video too, one of the Munchkins has hung himself behind Ben.
Oh
you
yeah,
can see
cool.
it in the distance.
So that's a little. Yeah, we gotta have something to entice people to double dip every week.
That's right.
But we'll be doing stuff like we're going to be improving our little setup in here over time.
Yeah.
But it's pretty nice.
Oh
being
yeah.
here.
I think we did say last time, like, you know, if you want to send us stuff, because we did the taste test, you know, that we should get a PO box. We've got a parcel locker.
Nice.
So we'll put that maybe on the website, or
we'll figure out.
We'll put it somewhere
in the episode description, maybe.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Maybe
That's one way of doing it.
You can go to the website. You can get all the other stuff we do there too.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you do want to like send us something, you can if you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending us your thoughts of Tears of the Kingdom. Sorry, by the way, we didn't get through. We got so many.
It's like 50, and the ones that like I read out were the ones that probably had criticisms. The rest of them were basically, I love this game.
Oh yeah, we should point that out, that most people are really loving it, and we figured we'll say a lot of the stuff we're gonna be saying here too, but like come and have a conversation with. I'm gonna play a bit more of it, but then really join in with the like, here's a story of what I've been doing. I'm trying to stay cold.
We read those ones because they were sort of different to stuff that we were all going to touch on. Because, everyone else resoundingly positive.
Yes.
Huge thank you to everyone who wrote in.
Yeah.
Maybe we will, in a few weeks, maybe we can do a bit more of like a listener
review
feedback
yeah,
about Tears of the Kingdom.
Because there's also a lot of discussion in the Facebook group and the Discord, which again, you can get into through the Patreon.
It's been fun. Getting in there, and everyone's off exactly the same as Breath of the Wild within one day. Someone being like, oh, I went off here and did this. Oh, I'm in here doing this. It's good shit.
It's great shit.
Good game.
Shit. I love to hear people doing stuff.
One of my favorite genres of story.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. And as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals,
Zelda, I'm loving getting to know her. Put that on the fucking box, cowards.
Yeah, all right.